just want to kind of get your thoughts on the basketball media nowadays. Just with,
Hmm.
it seems like there's so much content, so much media for just fans to consume all the time, and now we're kind of seeing the players giving their perspective on games on like a nightly basis. This with Draymond's podcast, CJ McCollum, even
Yeah.
former players like JJ Redick. How do you think this is changing kind of the media narrative? Or do you see a future in terms of like the post game press conference, in terms of players not doing that and just opting just to go on their podcasts instead and just
Mm.
telling their truth via there and not having to worry about, having questions thrown at them?
Whew. You know what? I don't know if we are far from that because I'm already looking into other jobs. I know that the players are going to take over because why not? They have so much knowledge. And when you hear JJ Redick talk, when you hear CJ McCollum and Draymond talk about their experience, us from the outside as media can only talk about from the media perspective, from the outside, from the sidelines. These players were actually playing in those championship games, playing in those high pressure moments, guarding the best players in the world. So why not? I think it's so cool. And I think it is a new shift of where media is going. I think it's also really amazing how they're honing their craft. They're not just sitting in front of a microphone and talking and
Yeah.
saying whatever comes out of their mouth. It's really, professional and really a great conversation with other players. Just as somebody who interviews other players for a living, when they're talking amongst each other, it's different. It's
Yeah,
like, okay,
it
you
is.
know what I've been through, you know
Yep.
exactly how I got here. We're on the same level. I'm going to tell you more stories. I'm going to open up a little more to you. And that's just something us media, we will never be able to break that. I will never be in the NBA. I will never be in the WNBA. So I can't relate on just those bare bones level of being a professional athlete. And that's something that we as listeners are kind of in for a treat because it's these stories that you would never get. And it's really authentic and really raw. So I'm excited for it. The idea of no post game press conferences, that terrifies me a little bit.
Yeah.
But as long as they're, this power of their voice in the best way possible, I don't have a problem with it. I think Draymond doing a documentary after he punches someone in the face was kind of wild. We're
Right.
not
Yeah.
going to let that
Yeah.
slide, Draymond. A
No.
very 30 for 30 in your home documentary. That was pretty crazy. I think if you asked an NBA player 30 years ago if he ever thought in his life that that would happen, that was wild. But I know that he is, it's another form of income. It's something that he can totally do after he, doesn't lace up the sneakers anymore. He's good at it. People listen to him. And you have, players like Shaq and Charles Barkley and Kenny, weekly talking about their experiences and talking about their bonds that they've made in the NBA. And we watch it every single time because it's so good. So it's exciting. I think I'll go into interior design when all the players just take up my jobs, but it's gonna be great, and I'm expecting to see even more of it.
I guess the downside, and apologies, Jordan, I don't want to keep you too much longer, but
No, you're good.
the downside to that would be maybe a lack of just sort of more like critical questioning to these players, like
Mm,
for example, that they might get in that post game press conference, or even just reflecting with a member of the media rather than with another player. I think I 100% agree with you about the obvious positives there and the stories that you
mhm.
bring up that we get, and that sort of brotherhood or sisterhood between players. Um, do you think that not getting the critical questioning is enough of a downside to keep the other side of media still relevant and ever present, sort of in this model?
That's a really good point. I I personally, I am a journalist. I am the person that asks those questions. So I feel like there's always going to be a need for that. And maybe it's not getting rid of all of us, but just keeping a select few for when that is happening. I feel like there's two different sides, right? Like there is that critical questioning, but then there's also questions that are like, hey, you missed all your shots tonight. What are you going to do about it? I think we
Right.
can lose those because
Right.
players are going to be like, okay, I'm going to go back to work tomorrow. Like, what else do you want me to do? We're not going to dwell on that. So the critical thinking questions, that's like, what is your why? What is your purpose? Like, is basketball what you are going to do? Why did you make these decisions in your life? Like, those are some of the big questions that, just as a fan, even taking the media part out of it, I would still want to know. And I think that there is space for an NBA player, WNBA player to say, okay, I'm going to ask more thought provoking questions. We're not only going to talk about plane rides and travels and what it was like playing against Michael Jordan. Like, we're going to actually dig deep and we're going to go into the big questions and the thought provoking questions. I think that lane is wide open for a player to still do that and hone those skills. I also want to shout out all the producers that are working behind the scenes that are writing a lot of these questions and they are doing a lot of the editing and doing a lot of the research, because it blows my mind to have a full-time job as a professional athlete and doing a full-time podcast. I can barely do that, and I literally don't do anything else. So I can't imagine that. So the producers and the teams that they are building behind the scenes, I think, are just as important and will always be important in the media landscape and how they're telling those stories.
No, I think that's a really good point. I think that's all of media. Just,
Mm-hmm.
I don't watch late night talk shows. I'd rather listen to an actor on a podcast. They're going to be more transparent with just another actor, just compared to just, a reporter or just some comedian where you're just watching a 5 minute interview with them. It's just, you see more an authentic person, a more authentic representation of, what they're feeling at that time, just
Yeah.
compared to the normal mediums that we've been watching over the years. So, no,
Definitely.
totally
It's
agree.
just a space, a safe space. I feel like
Yeah.
they feel safe. I
Yeah.
think sometimes the media has gotten a bad rap, has, been trying to do gotcha journalism, a lot of people, and trying to corner players into saying the wrong thing where, they know with another player that might not happen. Like, we're on the same wavelength. We have, the same trajectory into our careers. So I feel safer. And I think the media, myself included, we have to look at ourselves and say, how can we create more of those safer places? How can people look at us and say, okay, my story is safe with you. I feel okay telling you all the details and telling you everything. I know myself with my buckets show, we're sitting on a couch. It's more laid back. We're not, I'm not in a dress or there's no suits around. We're just talking. Now, I feel like I'm creating that safe space. And I have already, just in the first season of doing that, have seen players just get way more comfortable. They're more relaxed. We're able to just talk about anything. And me specifically, I'm way more interested in you as a person than you as a player. And I want to talk about off the court things and your family and everything else besides basketball. And we're not talking about shooting percentages on my show. Like, let's talk person to person. So other media members, I think, can take that page out of other players' books and make sure that we're talking to players as people.
This is going to go down in history as one of the biggest mismanagement moments in the NBA. This whole move for Russell Westbrook, and that's not to go at Westbrook specifically, but that's to go at Lakers management and Rob Pelinka specifically.
Agreed.
For how they treated Vogel, how they retooled against Vogel's strengths after winning that title.
Yeah, bullish. And to me, we've seen in the NBA. I mean, we're no geniuses here. I think it's fairly easy how the NBA works is finding young talent. And I think with LeBron and Anthony Davis, finding young shooters, that can be complements along with, like you said, Matt, with a strong defensive core. And that's gone now. They struggle defensively. And to me, LeBron is also culpable. It's his idea to bring in Westbrook, and look what's happening here. And now they don't get along. It's like it's your idea to bring this guy in here. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just not like a situation in which, you don't listen to players and you have management make all the decisions. I mean, LeBron is a power broker in this league. And not to mention, there's a lot of players from Clutch Sports. There's a lot of issues happening here. And a lot of the national media has piled on to the Lakers. So I don't think we need to go on, too much here. But I just will say, check out the video from our former guest, Coach Nick. He broke down really why the Lakers stink and why I think there's no hope for them just based on how they run their offense.
Yeah. I don't even know what they can do at this point.
They
almost just have to kind of sit in it.
Yeah.
Unless you want to do full fire sale, try to trade LeBron, try to trade AD, all this stuff. But at this point, I don't know how much value you're going to get even for those pieces, which sounds shocking to say for AD and LeBron. But I do believe that's the truth.
I think a lot. I mean, LeBron still, his numbers are great so far this season. If you just, what's it called? Low management him, he could be still a massive asset in the playoffs for a team. So he is far past his prime. It is that it speaks to the Lakers' incompetence that, that they're so terrible.
And my point is that LeBron is 37.
True.
So I don't know how many picks like a team would be willing, or like young players that the Lakers need in a deal like that.
No.
I don't know what they would give up for a year or two of LeBron.
Whoever's desperate. Yeah.
And and maybe like you could see, I don't know, just throwing out like the Knicks, if they were like, oh my goodness, we finally have the chance to bring LeBron in. That would be insane, though. It seems like LeBron wants to break Kareem's scoring title record in LA. He's poised to do that, and he has free license on this team to shoot as much as he wants. He's averaging, I think, above 30 points per game at this point. He's had a few games at least where he's scored over 30. So it seems like mission is pretty clear. Like, we're not contending this year. I'm going to get this incredible lifetime achievement. Let's be fair. LeBron still to this day, people don't call him a scorer, and he's going to have the scoring title. So I think that's a huge feather in his cap. If I want to be nice now, be positive on the Lakers side of things. Give LeBron some props here.
No, agreed.
But yeah, we could talk about the Lakers all day.